Let's start with a picture of absolute chaos. In Daniel chapter 7, the prophet sees a dark, churning ocean whipped up by heavy winds. And out of that violent water, terrifying predators begin to emerge. In biblical prophecy, this imagery isn't random. The stormy seas represent populated areas in turmoil, and the beasts rising from them represent the violent, consuming reality of human empires seizing power through war and conquest. This might remind you of Daniel chapter 2, where King Nebuchadnezzar dreamed of a shining statue made of different metals representing these same kingdoms. But here, the perspective shifts. While humans look at their empires and see a glorious monument to their own greatness, God pulls back the curtain and reveals their true nature: ravenous predators tearing each other apart. This illustration shows the first predator, a winged lion, representing the ruthless Babylonian Empire. Next to it is a bear with 3 ribs in its teeth, pointing to the Medo-Persian Empire. The ribs represent their conquests of Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. Then we see a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads. The wings symbolize the incredible speed of Alexander the Great's Greek campaigns. The 4 heads map exactly to the 4 generals who divided the empire after his death. Notice what is happening here. As history marches forward, these earthly powers are compounding. The predators are mutating into strange forms that rely entirely on violent force and continuous subjugation to survive. The 4th beast doesn't even map to a known animal in nature. Daniel simply describes it as terrifying, with massive iron teeth that devour and crush everything in its path. This points directly to the sheer brutality of the Roman Empire, an entity uniquely destructive compared to the empires that came before it. The vision shows 10 horns growing out of this beast. In prophecy, horns represent political powers or kings. Historically, this aligns perfectly with the fracturing of the Roman Empire. As Rome's power weakened, invading Germanic tribes carved up its territory into 10 distinct geographic regions, laying the foundation for modern Europe. But this division wasn't the end of the story. The collapse of Rome's military and political might created a vacuum, setting the stage for a completely new, highly deceptive kind of power to emerge from the ruins. Daniel watches a little horn rise among the 10, but its growth comes at cost. It uproots 3 of the existing horns to make room. Historically, this aligns with the rise of the Roman Church. For it to achieve supremacy in Western Europe, 3 Germanic tribes that practiced a competing form of Christianity, the Herulds, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths, were systematically overrun and removed from the political map. This horn is different because it merges politics with religion. While the other horns represented tribal states, this power claimed authority that went far beyond borders. Its leaders began to speak pompous words, asserting that the Roman pontiff held the place of God Almighty on earth, a direct claim to divine authority that no secular king had ever made. The prophecy provides a specific window for this power's dominance: a time and times and half a time. Using the biblical principle where a prophetic day represents a literal year, this calculates to 1,260 years. History marks the start of this period in AD 538, when a decree from the Eastern Emperor effectively made the Bishop of Rome the head of all churches. This dominance remained until 1798, exactly 1,260 years later, when Napoleon's army took the Pope prisoner and declared his political rule at an end. Perhaps most striking is the horn's intent to change times and law. Since humans change their own laws constantly, this refers to the laws of God. The most visible example is the 4th commandment, which defines the 7th day as the Sabbath. The Church openly points to its own power as the reason it substituted Sunday for the biblical Saturday, admitting there is no scriptural authority for the change, only its own claim to modify divine law. The little horn represents the logical endpoint of earthly systems of control. It is a power that uses state authority to force religious observance, rewrites divine law, and attempts to step into the role that belongs solely to Christ. Just as the vision on earth reaches its darkest point, Daniel's perspective is suddenly pulled upward. The stormy seas fade away, replaced by the serene majesty of a heavenly courtroom. God, described as the Ancient of Days, takes his seat as the judge. The text says the court was seated and the books were opened. This begins an investigative judgment, a divine audit of human history. The purpose here is to expose the deceptions of the little horn power and review the lives of those who claimed to follow God. For believers, this judgment isn't something to fear. The prophet explicitly notes that judgment was made in favor of the saints. It is the moment God steps in to vindicate his true followers and publicly condemn the powers that oppressed them. Then the true hero of the vision steps forward. Daniel sees one like the Son of Man, Jesus Christ, arriving on the clouds of heaven. He approaches the Ancient of Days and receives the dominion, glory, and kingdom that the little horn had attempted to steal. This moment connects directly to the larger cosmic conflict detailed later in the book of Revelation. It is the definitive victory of the Creator's truth and freedom over the beast's system of force and coercion. The violent predators of human history will be stripped of their power. In their place, the Son of Man will establish an everlasting kingdom of peace, an incorruptible dominion that will be shared with the saints forever.